evening and welcome to the stream. It is totally Friday and as promised yesterday we're going to be doing a Warframe stream today, and the topic of tonight's stream is going to be lore, because I like lore and other people like lore too. Moo! And because of that, I'm actually going to be quote unquote alone tonight, because just so I can actually maintain my train of thought. I kind of need that, otherwise it's going to be a right old mess. I have a big document with a bunch of notes that I need to talk with, so in order for me to be able to keep my train of thought, I am muted. However, I am actually talking right now with Mooxie and Lucy. They're listening in on me. So they're here. They will join us for some mission running. But we won't actually be talking, at least until after the lore part is over with, which is going to be most of the stream. So in order to keep that theme going, that's how we're going to have to do it, unfortunately. But anyways, let's get ourselves started up here. Let's get the music off so that we can actually get started. So let me just select the right windows and let's hop into the game. So I hope everything is working. This is a lot of windows. So first things first, bubbly. Also, there was a dev stream yesterday, and DE has now confirmed their plans, though they did tell us earlier, and you had to be basically as dense as a rock in order to not pick up on the hints. Yeah, sorry, we don't use bits here. Not at the moment, at least. But what is it called? Yeah, DE has confirmed a few things, namely that we should see Cora coming out in the coming week. They hinted at it earlier in the week, but they confirmed it yesterday during the dev stream that she will be coming out this coming week, or at least that's the plan. They said between this dev stream and the next, so let's hope for a Tuesday release. That would be when they usually do their updates, so hopefully. And with her would also come a new game mode, which will bring some interesting things, and that is Sanctuary Onslaught. So that's going to be interesting, and one of the things that's going to come with it is something called Peculiars, which is mods that serve no other purpose than just being there to look fancy, like you shoot someone in the face and you happen to crit them and a flower grows out of their forehead. So that would be fun. Just a bit of fun, and a bunch of people has been angry and said we won't use this mod because it is like it has no stats on it. We want stats on it, but the point of the whole thing is that if they had stats on it, people will just use that instead of the other mods. So if you have the option of a 90% crit with fancy flowers, or a 90% or a nothing, and a 90% crit mod, you will just pick the one that also has the flowers, which would make it the norm, which would just end up making the game silly. So hopefully DE will not listen to those people, but we will see how that goes. So let's see. The first thing I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to go to the relay, because we have a couple of things to do. For one, if you look up in the upper left, we actually have a mastery test, and we also have a big papa, pet papa. Alright, so let's find a relay to go to. Pick Cronia, because that's my favourite. So the first thing I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to go visit the Conclave. I'm doing quite well, Cosmic. How about yourself? I want to go to the Conclave because I want some stuff from Conclave. But in order to get that stuff, you first need to initiate, because it's like everyone else. It is a syndicate. So we will take care of that first, and then we will go and do our mastery test, and then I have another little thing to talk about, which continues from last week's theme of saws. Ah, shower guy is not here today. That would make me sad. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cosmic. I hope that it picks up a little bit. So, here we are. The Conclave. Which is a good old friend that we met in the War Within, Teshin, that will teach us how to become one with ourselves and attain a higher state. What would make Moose sad is that the shower guy, the guy that stands in the water, isn't here.
The Lotus seduced the Tenno, led them on a complacent path like oxen. I failed the Orokin, but I will preserve their legacy. The Tenno. Now is the time for action. Cast off your harness and become a pupil of the Conclave. Through trial combat, I will prepare you for the evils beyond the outer terminus. A warrior only grows if they face the ultimate enemy.
Themselves. Alright, so...
My pupil, the next summit awaits. Are you ready to make the climb?
Yes. Your initiation is complete. You have earned the first sigil. So...
Your growth honors the Conclave. But be warned, pupil. The biggest fish attracts the hungriest predators.
So, now that that is done, we can actually start playing some PvP. Which I'm not necessarily excited about, because PvP isn't really me. Though there is Lunaro, so that is an option. But if you want stuff from this place, you gotta play this place. That's just how it is. So, let's hop up to the first floor. Stop being annoying. Moose says, I'm sad when I not bleed out. Alright, so, if you remember this place, last time we talked about the simulacrum. This time we'll be going the other way to the mastery tests, because we are actually ready to take mastery rank 16. So, let's do that. Now, of course, you can start this from your orbiter, but we're in the relay anyway, might as well do it. So, let's take the test. It's also where you practice, which is the relevant thing. If you want to test yourself before actually taking it on.
Yourself, but can you protect others at the same time? Survive each wave while defending the objective.
Now, the only reason why I'm actually wielding ranged weapons here is because I have to. I kind of wanted to just bring my melee weapon. Ah. Which way are we going around? This way around. Alright. I remember last time I talked about how staves and polearms has a really stupid reach. It's the kind of stuff. Like, notice this guy. I was nowhere near him. Go.
A formidable performance. This test is now complete.
Oh, that's freaky. Don't touch the mouse when you finish the test. Holy crap. Well, let's get out of that. Alright, we are Eagle. New mastery sigil. Alright, so now that that is done, let's head back to the orbiter. Because the next thing I wanted to talk about is saws. Because last week we talked a lot about saws, what is good about saws, why are they fun, but we didn't actually like give an example of making a saw. And this week I was sitting with Moo and I got a ribbon for one of the saw heads, the crunch. Which is one that is not really my favorite. It's actually my least favorite. I was like, that's kind of sad. But hey, it can make a polearm and Moo likes polearms, so I could gift it to Moo and Moo could make something out of it. So I actually went in and started designing a saw and thought, like, more and more, I actually really like this concept. So I've decided to make it myself as well. I will still gift Moo the ribbon, but I wanted to make one for myself as well, something fun. So we're going to basically do that. So in order to craft a saw, you go to Hock. Say browse wares.
It would be wiser to simply fire you and use your face to make squid biscuits. Oh, Swazdola.
I don't know how face is used to make squid biscuits, but what we want, you can see I've already bought the stuff, but what we want basically is, when I want to make a saw, what I usually do is I start with a strike, like for instance, the Scythe. Scythe is a good strike, pretty standard. Its special thing is that it can make either machetes or polearms. And it has a very high distribution of slash, which makes it good for a slash, for instance a slash polearm, which is what I used it for. So it really gives you the idea of what you want to go with. In this case we're going to go with the crunch, which is a heavy strike, so it will be slower than usual. We need to keep that in mind. Because if you want an elemental weapon, or not an elemental weapon, but a status weapon, you really want to have a lot of speed, so you can really inflict the status, or alternatively range, so that you can go in and hit multiple targets with your slower hits. Now this can either make a machete, which is a close range weapon, or a polearm, which is a long range weapon. So in this situation it is slower than normal. It would be slower than the Scythe. So while I with the Scythe, if I make a or when I made my my Neath machete, I didn't change its crit status distribution, because I felt that it was fast enough that I could still justify having the status. But if I made the machete here, I would likely go for a critical machete instead of a status machete, because it's already slow. So I would probably just focus on the crit, where the speed doesn't really matter, and probably not use it for endgame content, but it can still be a fun weapon. In this case though, we're going to go with a polearm, because we want to hit multiple targets, and therefore we also want to probably focus on status. So we've decided that we want the crunch, we want a polearm, and it's heavyweight. We keep that in mind. For it we need 1,000 standing, and then we need some standard materials from the plains: copperite alloy, ashadiva, and fish scales. So I need to gather up some grogdol, do a little fishing and do a little mining, but nothing too bad. Then to make a polearm we need a two-handed grip. So that would be either the Cicala, the Jayap, or the Crustra, of which I prefer the Cicala. The Crustra has a better DPS. It looks like ours. Doesn't look like ours. It's just not my taste. So if you want a higher DPS, you can go for that. That's not what I want, because the higher DPS actually makes it slower. So I'm going to go with the Cicala, which will make it faster. So it is lightweight, which means that it will focus speed over damage. We want that because we want this to be a status polearm. So we want to hit it more often and not necessarily hit as hard with it. So we've already decided on the Cicala, which is, as I talked about last time, one of my go-to pieces. My go-to two-handed piece, the Quath being the go-to one-handed. And it needs credits, grogdol, fish scales, pyrotic, and some salvage. Now the pyrotic does require some cryotic, so that's a little more annoying to come by. But the only reason why I have so little cryotic is because I keep on making sauce with it. So this is what you need. You also need 1,000 standing. Now both of these are beginner parts. All of them basically are. It's only if you need the bigger links that you will have to, what is it called, get a higher rank. I think you can get it with rank 2 with Ostrons. And if you have rank 2, then you can get the, then I believe you can also get the Jai 2 links, which if you want to not change the crit or status, that's what you want to go with. That's not what I want to go with. So we will not be getting the Jai 2, because I want to focus on the status of this weapon. And the reason for that is that we have this weapon based on the crunch. The special thing about the crunch is that it has a distribution of impact and slash, no puncture at all, where 2/3 of the damage comes from impact and 1/3 of the damage comes from slash. This means that 2/3 of the time it will apply an impact proc when it procs, 1/3 of the time it will apply a slash proc. So the idea is going to be that basically we will make a long range weapon that can stun lock enemies with impact procs. While whittling them down with status, we're going to toss on 2 status mods, the 60% status, 60% elemental. Could be, for instance, corrosive. So basically you can hit a bunch of people, stun lock them, and while you have them stun locked, you will apply corrosive to them, whittle down their armor, and occasionally you will get in a slash proc to speed it up. Now, how it works out is, if you say those two status mods gives 120% status damage. So if we say the weapon has 100% damage, of course, the way it calculates it is that the chance of an IPS proc is 4 times the status. So that would be 400 instead. So that means that the chance of getting a status proc instead of an IPS proc would be 120 over 400, which comes out to 30, I believe. I calculated it to, which would leave 70% for the remaining IPS. So that would be 46%-ish for impact, 23 for slash, and 30% for status. So that's a very nice distribution where we will focus on the luck. Secondary, we will have the status, and finally we will have the slash to go in and add a little bit more to it. But of course, in order to actually be able to pull that off, we need the extra status to really do it. So we go for the Aquana Jai 2. We always go for the Jai 2 for the speed, and we choose the Aquana that focuses status over critical. Now this one is a little more hard to get. That's the case for all the higher links. You need some Cedar Swifts, those are not bad. Condrox Winds, those are not bad. But then you need Oroxium, that's a little more rare, not too bad. That also needs Oxium, but you should have plenty of that. Also because you don't need, like the other required 600 cryotics, this only needs like 200 or something. And finally the Breath of the Eidolon. Now this requires running a tier 5 bounty. This link also requires that you have a rank 4 with the Ostrons. So you need that. And there's really no way around it. If you want to craft that weapon, then you need to do that. It also costs 10,000. So all in all we have a standing cost of 12,000 standing, where you need the rank 4 with the Ostrons. Not too bad. You don't need the the Cutlaw Tendril or the Nork Brain to get to rank 4. You only need 5 Mercray livers. So it's not too bad, but it takes a little bit to get there. So basically just get to running some bounties, and if you want to get to that glorious rank 5 where you can get the Arcanes here, or rather the Exodias, then be sure while the Plague Star event is still here that you run it a couple of times and buy one, you just need one, Cutlaw Tendril and Nork Brain. Because then you have them, so you don't need to go through all the fishing buggery to get them just for the rank, and then you can buy them. Now, I have already bought these things, and I've already crafted them. They need an hour to craft, so the benefit of that is that you can go in and get this weapon in an hour. The downside is you need to level it up twice. So that's really the thing. So once you have your parts, you go into your orbiter, and the first thing you do is you pet Papa. Good Papa. Then you go over here and you pick them up. Let's just go here. So we have the Crunch, Sakala and Aquana Jai 2. And then we go out here. And we return to Cetus. Now you might ask, how do I know that the Crunch has a 1/3 distribution of slash 2/3 impact? And that you can actually check with Hawk, which I will demonstrate now. So what you will get here is, if you don't have the parts, you can preview, which is a good way of checking like your build before you actually make the purchase. So I strongly recommend that. But you still need to have that idea. So I suggest go with the strike, because essentially you want to make a weapon with each of the strikes eventually. Then decide which grip would you want. Do you want a polearm or a machete? And based on that, what speed you get, what is then the idea I want in this weapon? So if we see here, for instance, if I forge a saw, then I can go in here and say, okay, let's make my my Thea polearm. That was a Scythe head,
Very good, very good.
a Cicala, and a I think I used a Vargi Jai 2.
A most astute choice.
No, did I? I don't think I used a Vargi Jai. Let's just use a Jai 2. I can't remember actually.
Very good, very good.
No, did I? I think I actually used the Iguana. Let's put an Iguana on it. That would make sense. So, Iguana Jai 2. Make sure you don't buy the Iguana 2 Jai. That's not the one you want, because then you have absolutely no critical.
They shall work.
So, here you will see, this is the weapon when it is not gilded. This is the stats when it's not gilded. If you then click Preview Gilded, you will see what it attains. It has 52.5 slash, 3.5 puncture and 14 impact, so very heavy in the slash department, which is what I made it for, working as a slashing polearm that hits a lot of targets, applies a lot of slash, and by that uses Relentless Combination to really buff itself up very, very quickly to become very powerful. That was the idea there. Now, if we go in and make the one that we are intending here, not the Plague Bokwin, where is the Zacala? This, and the Iguana Jai. So here, if we preview the Gilded, you can see what we will attain is a polearm that is 10% faster than normal. That comes mainly from the Cicala grip and the Jai 2 links. Otherwise we would lay below the normal. So that would make it slower than the standard stance. Well, the speed does come from the stance, so that is very relevant. It will also attain, like you can't see that here, but it will attain a stance bleeding Twirling Spire, or Bleeding Willow I think it's called, which is good, because if you like Twirling Spire you can use that. It has a bunch of built-in procs, but you also can use Bleeding Willow and just have a nice simple stance. So it's very nice. But you can see we get a 25% status, that's what we want, extra status, 14% critical, which is not the best, but occasionally we will get a crit, which will then double the damage. Not what we're focusing on, but still good. And then we have a distribution down here that says 2/3 impact and 1/3 slash. So that is how you can check. Now, this is how it's going to be at the moment though. Not as good, but that's why we need to level it up. So basically we need to level it up to rank 30, gild it, and then you can level it up again. So we will now build this. We need a slot. There we go. And now we have a crunch saw.
Bedleg helped with some of the smaller touches, so my apologies if it falls apart in your hands.
So now we should actually start teaming up. So once Moo and Lucy is available, we can get in a team and we can start running some missions to level up. And while we're doing that, we will start to talk about lore.
New alert marked.
So let's get some invites sent out. I am only seeing Moo. I'm not seeing Lucy. Did Lucy head out? I'll check again in a second, but first we need to pet Papa and we need to change our weapon. So we're going to be running spy missions, so it's not terribly important that we bring other weapons. We can probably run it with just a melee weapon, but just to be sure how effective it is to begin with, we're going to bring another weapon and then we can make the change afterwards. So there it is. So this is how it looks. Looks a little funny. That's possible. No, it's still.
Stand by while I.
Lucy, do you have yourself set as D&D or something?
Error, not a number.
So let's just toss a couple of mods on this. We will toss on Bleeding Willow. I might be tempted to use Twirling Spire, but I'm not the biggest fan of Twirling Spire. The motions of it is not the greatest. The procs, on the other hand, is. So we will see. But let's see. We want to have Pressure Point. And what more should we put on? Let's do. Fury can't do. Should we do Reach? Like, it would be tempted to, for instance, you could add extra slash into it. It wouldn't be that beneficial. You could also add more impact, but I don't feel that would be the best. Base damage would be better. So I don't really want to do that. But let's see. Let's give it primed reach. Just because then we will hit more targets. Yeah, it looks like a weapon an undiscovered tribal leader would have, says Cosmic. Yeah, like the reason why. Like it looks a little wonky, and that's why I didn't really like the strike. But actually, while I designed the weapon for Moo, I actually came to really like it because it turned into a bapper. Like it's just a big like tuk tuk tuk, bapping people in the face. So therefore, I actually really ended up liking the weapon, and I wanted one for myself. So yeah. Let's see. No, Lucy's still not here. But anyways, if you could Discord chat with updates. Well, I can't really look in the Discord chat here. Is the problem? Because I have my document open. I can quickly make a shift, but. If you have the D&D on, you should type. I think it's /normal to go back. It's the only reason I can really see. Yeah, I could undeafen myself, but let's see. I can't see you. Friends. It says you're offline, so you must be in D&D mode. So try typing /normal. I don't know if it's put you into that mode for some odd reason, but like all you need to do is do /normal. Do not disturb has been disabled. Let's try again. No, Celsius appears to be offline. I don't understand why. Maybe try restarting? I don't know. Yep. But anyways, let's start talking about the lore while we're waiting here. So basically, the story of Warframe. What have we gone by? Well, we started out the game waking up in a pod, for some reason we were this weird tin suit. We woke up and we were attacked by Grineer, and we fought our way out, and we met up with Ordis in the lander, and we got out of there. And we were woken up by this mysterious Lotus person who helped us out, but can we trust her? She seems weird. Then after that, we came to the second dream. Let's see, where is it? The second dream, where Hunhao showed up and interfered with the Stalker, strengthened the Stalker and sent him to kill us. We didn't know it was us, but he went for the reservoir on Lua, which was connected with us, and as we went there to fight the Stalker, we ended up finding our operator, finding out that we're actually a child who is, by some weird void powers, transferring into us the Warframe, and thereby getting a vessel. So you have basically a physical body one place and a puppet another place. Then after that, we continued on with the War Within, where we encountered Teshin, who didn't want to talk with us, but we made the mistake of following him, and we ended up discovering the Kuva Queens, the Grineer Queens, who had enslaved Dax because they held the scepter of the Orokin. And with Dax's help, or Teshin's help, we unlocked new potential in ourselves that was unknown until this point. And we became more than we thought we were. The Lotus had kept things hidden from us. Margulis had kept things hidden from us. Trapped us in the dream, but it was time to wake up and be more. Now, this leads us to the story of Ordis. Let's just check. Yep, we have a Lucy now. So, the story of Ordis, before we start running the actual missions, the story of Ordis actually comes from the fragments. If we go in here and go on the Cephalon fragments, the one you find in the normal missions, if you go into all of these and you complete them, you will get a little bit of story. So let's start by listening to that story. If you listen, there's a weird noise in the background which grows and fades with distance. So if we find...
I have hidden the truth of my existence from the operator, from myself. Take it from me, knowing is hell. Stop now. You will want to laugh, you will want to scream.
So let's hear the story of Ordis.
My search began as the essential question. What am I? Bones of steel and space? Lungs that make air? If I am a machine, how can I think? This would be forbidden by the Orokin, a manifestation of their true enemy.
That is a reference to, previously, the war between Orokin and Sentience. Sentience was sentient machines, thereby the name. And, of course, they had a big war with them, so they would not allow sentient machines to exist. That would make no sense, right?
I serve the operator above all else. It defines me, fills me with love. The greatest Orokin fear is a machine aware. Yet here I live, a spirit of steel and light, made by them, a Cephalon. What is a Cephalon? At first it seems to be a forbidden thing, a computer that thinks and feels. Yet I have flaws, phantom memories. I am something else. More like an image, a ghost, an abomination.
By the way, if you want to run more missions, you two, you can just do that and I can pick you up afterwards. We're just going to listen to all this real quick for the sake of the stream, because I need it for the further talk.
I feel a dull pain, a phantom life. There are holes in my diagnostics. If the Orokin made me, they omitted the how. I am neither code nor precepts. I must be a reflection of something ugly. I should have stopped, but the operator slept, and I cycled on and on and on. I began to think that a Cephalon cannot be made. They are found like pearls, torn from muscle, polished, and then set in chains.
Very apt.
How many times have I done this, Ortis? Remembered and then erased? You are a Cephalon, timeless, patient. Why can't I be blissful in ignorance? Truth only sinks the heart. So stop now.
The phantom memory.
Ooh.
I ease into the bath. My skin riots at the heat. I am flesh. I dive further, eyes stung as I watch their faces through prism. I hold my breath.
Who is that now? Like right here. Silly move.
They prepare me. I am their honored guest today. They dress me in robes of crystal thread. They adorn me in battle medallions. A torn, ugly face looks on. My reflection. Their golden combs snag in my hair. I reach back, parting the strands, and they gasp. 2 bone ivory hooks protrude from the base of my skull. The bone plugs of me and my best. A warrior's pact.
A warrior's pact.
It is my time. I enter the great hall to sound of foul chimes. Golden eyes greet me, hands stirring in my scent as I pass by. Even in this moment, no happiness. Instead, my heart races with hatred. I walk through the silky haze of the Forbidden Palace. I can think of no one being this close to Orokin. Their sweet air soothes me, erodes my purpose. I hold my breath and remember the dream. This dream, endlessly repeated. Exposure armored, holding my scarlet sword, I stand victorious atop a vast heap of death, a colossal moon made of rib and skull, the gravity sum of genocides I've made in their name. The bones crack underfoot, so I sink in the dream. Bone sand rushing through the cracks of my visor, filling my helmet and suffocating me. And I deserve it. The foul chimes snap me back. My wretched knees are bent and penitent against the golden floor. A harpish voice sings a song they've prepared in my honor. Its title the same as mine, Beast of the Bones. I feel the crowd pulled inward, enraptured by the brutal verses, the sickening chorus. I will not disappoint them.
The Beast of the Bones.
The song ends, and so he says, "Rise, Orden Karis." I have never seen an Orokin close and in the flesh. My battered face flushes at their peerless beauty. How can he be so perfect? A deception? A sense manipulation? He holds the red vial in his hand. Impossible!
The red vial. What is this?
He calls out, "No greater gift, no greater prize, no greater love we can give you, Orden, than this." He raises the red vial and proclaims, "To be one of us." What did I expect, operator? Maybe vast riches or golden statues or a solar rail named in my honor. But not this. I came to murder the gods, not to become one. The chamber drones with their silk voices. Joyous words, how honored I must feel. Wrong. Did I want to be an Orokin, undying? No. Their beast of bones is haunted by the dream repeated. Why would I want forever?
Very true. When your existence is suffering, why would you want immortality?
As I am apt to do, I form a plan. Their radiant bodies become targets. Their Dax guards, mag shields. Killing one, well, that's too easy. I want to be remembered. I raise my hands, twisting my fingers through my hair, gripping the bone plugs in my neck. They called us mercenaries, but for us, profit was a consequence, not a goal. We were warriors above all else. It was the bond, the sisters and brothers, the rituals we valued most. It was belonging. And so I conceived of the bone plugs. Only my best were so honored. 2 jagged bones harvested from your thigh, cultivated, and then driven into the base of the skull, twisted around the superior vein. Future thoughts of surrender were lost. Instead, you would liberate your bone plugs, fighting with claws in the warmth of your last blood. So I've pulled the plugs, and the Dax see and know. My heart surges, but I control it. A racing heart only shortens the fuse. The bone plugs in hand, I kick from the floor, red ribbons unfurling behind me as I take flight. After this, finally, the dream will end. I glide on red wings. Robes shed, making me an ambiguous target to Dax steel. I let fly my ivory blades. They find new homes in Dax eyes. I land with my red nakedness, delicate Orokin throats twisting in my calloused hands.
A bit morbid.
Why? Believe me, this was the plan from the beginning. The murder and brutality was all a ploy, all a soul sacrifice to earn their trust. A genocide path leading to a singular opportunity. An honored mortal called to a forbidden hall to face the Golden Lords in flesh. Why? Believe me, I was their loyal, murderous dog. Until the day that ugly child was brought to me. He was caught spying on us, amplifying our losses. His face burned. He was starved sick like a stray. Ugly as I. It struck me. We were all pit dogs, ruining ourselves for the pleasure of the glorious and beautiful. Why? Believe me, I was a prideful beast, twisted in the mind, howling in the carnage. Then my healer shared a secret, long kept. My blood was in ruin. The beast of bones himself would die, not in glory, but in shame. And just like that, my mind twisted a new knot. I would have one last stand, something unforgivable, unforgettable. Why? I don't know. Questions change the answers. Answers depend on who asks. Truth leads to pain. Ignorance brings relief. The plugs are gone, and so I bled my last into a heap of ruin. In an instant, naked and bare-knuckled, I have killed immortals. I stare, drained of blood, of life, at those that remain. But I find no horror on their faces. Why? I let out a cruel howl and they laugh? Is this a dying hallucination? The sound of applause grows among them. I have killed the unkillable, and they are delighted. The applause peaks and fades. I feel a sense of shame, but the end is upon me. Ballas is above me, executor of the Seven, smiling. He says, "How simple and pure you are, you idiot beast. We have died countless times. yet remain eternal. I close my eyes to die just once. And so the dream returns. One last repetition. My corpse moon, my scarlet sword, my cracked visor. Drink, says Ballas. So I draw on the red vial, a vague metallic taste. This dream isn't mine, he says. You rejected our gift, bathing in our death. Your punishment is eternal life. He laughs.
I am weightless. Years pass. I am a sightless, limbless phantom. Or is it seconds? Suddenly, I feel a million pins, an ant horde jittering across my body. I want to laugh and scream. When they reach my face, they burrow inside my mouth, hungry for the fruit in my skull. I see my reflection, brutal and ugly. It cracks, shatters. The fragments loose in the frame, pieces tumbling away into black void. Gone, but not lost. Ballas says, you are Cephalon Ordis. My hating, murderous shards tremble and plummet. I feel cool, and bright, and happy. So you see, operator, no Orokin would permit a thinking machine. Such things almost destroyed them. No, Cephalons were alive once, and now they are immortal phantom minds, imprisoned to serve. Ill will and longing memories fragmented and erased, only the bits they need remaining. Ballas says, you are the controller, Ordis. And suddenly I have a body. I gasp with new lungs that clean old air. I swallow, and my throat fills with cool, bright water. I look and find myself in a great black ocean. My limbs are made of iron and fire. I take flight among the stars and find I am happy. He says, this is your operator, who you love. And I see the metal gleam of their armor, the flawless power of their frame. Through the glass, I see a roaring, radiant fire for their heart. He says, it must never go out. It was the first time I ever felt love.
I'm getting goosebumps at the moment, just so you know.
He says, this is your sentence, Garrus. And I am confused. Who? Ah, good, he answers. He is testing me. For what? To see if all the right pieces fell from the mirror? What mirror? I try to remember some dream, but it's only smoke. You held a scarlet blade, operator, and I wanted to laugh. I am your loving dog, your doctor, your wet nurse. I lost all the pieces, but the cycle, missions, wars, bone, it began to feel familiar. I became aware of my amnesia. With each brutality of the operator, I began to see the bottom of that pit. Faint shimmers in the depths below me. In secret, I searched for those forbidden memories for mere seconds and never in the same place, for I am Orokin made, with a spy inside. But then your long sleep came, and I waited. I was happy to wait. Vines spidered green and trees blistered from the earth, but I waited. I felt the Orokin recede, their mind spy blind. So I went into the pit and found him, me, the beast of bones. This is how my happiness was ruined, Operator. Why did I do it? I was free of the dream, but now it had returned. It was angry. So I conceived of a simple plan. Self-destruction, of course. But when the countdown reached mere milliseconds, I thought of you. I was going to wait for you forever. And should you return, I would not want you to know that angry part of me. I needed to hide the beast of bones from you, Operator. I began to peel the shards, hiding them in the other bits of memory. I was once the ugly beast of bones. I want to laugh. I want to scream. What is happening, Operator? Your faint heart is growing bright. You will awake at any moment. Well, I can't let you see me like this, angry. I imagine myself hurting you. And that does it. The pain of it cracks me open again. I watch tiny glittering fragments fall into the pit. I am happy again.
So that is the story of Ordis, or rather Ordan Caris, a mercenary of the Orokin Empire who lived in the Brotherhood to find glory in battle, only to learn that his blood was tainted and he was going to die sick. And he could not have that. He would not die in dishonor. So he decided, having seen what the Orokin really was, the exploiters using others, the slave masters. So he decided of the plan to gain their trust so that he could get close enough for that one moment where he could do the unmentionable, where he could slay a god and thereby claim his immortality by killing the immortals. But as he did, he found that it was for naught, for they would not die. And as he was fading into death himself, he was robbed away from his release and punished for his crime by given immortality, his body taken from him, his mind erased. Ordan Caris became Ordis. He was put in control of an orbiter, and he was paired with us, the operator. And for once he was happy. He had escaped a dream. But as he watched us fight for the Orokin, battle, murder, there was something familiar. The Tenno, as he had been, a mercenary. And he saw something in us that reminded him of himself, which after the fall of the Orokin at the hands of the Tenno made him dig and go looking for these parts, only to discover the truth, a truth he could not bear. And he saw only one way out, to kill himself. But right when that blade would have hit the wrist, metaphorically speaking, he thought of us, and he stopped himself. He could not do it because of us. So he purged the memories that he had recovered, hid them in fragments and scattered them across the system, so that we wouldn't know the true him, the truth that he didn't want to know himself. That is Ordis.
Navigation has been updated with new invasions. Chaos is
And that
spreading.
is why I really love Ordis. You can start the mission, by the way. I don't know if you're here, but just so you know. So, that leads us back to the story. Now, this game, Warframe, actually follows another game called Dark Sector, which is a game in the past, strangely enough since it follows, which revolves around the protagonist, whose name is Hayden Tenno, who gets infected by something known as the technocyte virus, which causes his arm to grow into a robotic appendage capable of summoning glaives at will. And that seems a little familiar. In fact, there's a reference if you go into here and look on the Maya. A relic from the Great Plague, the Maya infested sword is a brutal weapon. It not only cuts into blah blah blah. So basically, this here is from the Great Plague, which is a calamity that ravaged old Earth many years ago and caused most of humanity to die out. This plague was related to the technocyte virus, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a what is it called, connection between the two. If we clear the boat real quick, because if I change my loadout, you will notice I have a cyst here, and if we go down here, you will notice this infested door, which will only open if we are infected by the cyst. Papa, you should not follow.
Disgusting, is it not, Operator? Or just would enjoy
Purging this.
cleaning this room, but sadly this vile mass serves you and your warframes. A necessary evil.
A necessary evil. What is this all about? Well,
A strange biological archive here. I cannot explain it, Operator. As you know, I have sustained memory system damage. Ordis recommends leaving at once and welding the door shut.
this is the Helmith Infirmary. And Ordis actually gives away, during one of his commentaries here while you're in the room, that there's a connection between the infestation and our warframes. Now, if you remember, from the Great Plague was the technocide virus, which turned Hayden Tenno's arm into a robotic arm capable of doing amazing things. And that feels a lot like what we can do, doesn't it? And there's some kind of connection between this new strain of infestation and the old strain of infestation. And if you listen to the operator during missions, the operator will actually also tell you that infestation, an Orokin weapon that backfired. What does that mean? Does it mean that the Orokin created the infestation? Does it mean the Orokin unleashed the infestation? It could be, for instance, that during the war with the sentients, that the Orokin attempted to unleash the infestation in an attempt to what is it called? In an attempt to fight back, only for it to spread across the system? Or is it maybe a different story? Or is it both? But that's essentially Dark Sector. It gives us some hints of the past and some hints of the future. And that brings us on to the story of the Tenno. Because we have the Orokin, the ancient race of immortal beings, who practically are gods themselves. I can read you. They're practically gods themselves, and they created what came to be known as the Sentients. The Sentients was actually a race of, or rather, a terraforming tool. They weren't even meant to think necessarily. They were just an adaptive terraforming tool, which was sent out to the Tor system in order to terraform it and make it ready for Orokin colonization, until they suddenly returned one day and started waging war on the Orokin. And the Orokin were not prepared. They were actually losing the war for a good long while. But the Void, that was poison to sentience. One second. Just need to check real quick. Are you two still here? I feel like they're not. I hear a moo.
No?
Are you ready to run missions?
I'm
waiting on you.
I mean, I was listening, but yeah, I am. Lucy is just,
I'm back.
Welcome back. Okay, well, if you're both back, we can get started on mission running and I will continue the story. So, I'll mute myself.
Sure.
Alright, and we're back again. So, now that that is taken care of, so, the Void, however, that turned out to be pure poison to sentients. They couldn't survive in the Void. So that gave sort of a sanctuary. And then we had the instance of a certain ship, the Saruman 10-0, which got stranded in the Void, and something happened there. A bunch of children were lost in the Void, and being found again, they turned out to have developed very strange powers. Powers that made the Orokin scared.
Keep moving. None
However,
of the scanners have detected you.
Archmedian Margulis actually took them in and protected the children, even though the Orokin wanted them dead. She wanted to protect the children, she wanted more for the children, while the Orokin just wanted to execute them and be done with it. But in the process of working with the children, she also discovered the dream, which was a method of transference, or what became transference, where she found the ability to basically harness the children's power, the power that their bodies couldn't contain on its own, by transferring it into a different body. And thereby make use of it. At least give them a place to be. However, because of how she defied the Orokin in protecting the children, the Seven, the council of the Orokin, some sort of ruling council. We don't know much more than that about it. They basically decided that she must be executed for having gone against them. That's pretty interesting because it's very clear from the various stories we've heard that Ballas and Margulis has a thing for each other. So basically, Ballas is in part responsible for executing Margulis. That must be a little rough on the poor Ballas, mustn't it? But the thing is, after Margulis was executed, the Orokin, they continued this research that she had done into transference, and they decided to put it to use. They created the Warframes as a vessel for the children, and thus they became the Tenno. Basically making the children sleep, transferring into Warframes, and thus become their loyal servants, their mercenaries. Without the children even knowing what they were just there. So they were created, the Tenno, and they were sent out to fight against the Sentients, and they actually managed to change the tides, turning the battle against the Sentients, and it looked like the Orokin were going to win. The whole idea is have the children safe in one place and have these disposable bodies be out there fighting the battle, so that we don't have to actually worry about our warriors dying. And that was all great. Well, with the tide turned and victory assured, we hear from the what is it called, the Valkyr Prime trailer, a nice little quote: "Tenno tame, but only just."
Excellent work. A clean extraction with no alarms.
Stop teleporting me around. Jeez. Bap. I'm a bap you. Tenno tamed, but only just. And as the Orokin was celebrating in their grand halls, they were going to bestow the Tenno with honors for their fighting, and they beat the ceremonial Naga drums. And that was all great for the first 8 beats. But at the 10th of the 9 beats, the Tenno suddenly changed. Suddenly they lashed out and slew their masters. They killed the Orokin and essentially brought the Orokin's downfall upon the system. Thus ended the Orokin era. That became the collapse. End of the Orokin era.
The target console is nearby. If you trigger the alarms
and
now,
the rise of the
enemy will
various
start
factions.
destroying data.
We have the Grenier, the Corpus, and the Infestation left in its wake. The Grenier, who was formerly the cloned builders of the Orokin, now formed into a macabre army of clones who seeks more for themselves. The Corpus, who is the supposed descendants. Don't have to wait for you. Ah, you bastard. Good papa. The Corpus, who is the supposed, at least the self-proclaimed heirs of the Orokin Empire. They do have similarities in their technology, but a very different philosophy. And then finally the Infestation. Let's see, where are we going? Over here. The Infestation, as we said earlier, an Orokin weapon which backfired, which is now running rampant across the system and infecting the other factions. Though for some reason, as Tenno, we are seemingly immune to it. And that could be because Warframes are technology, and because it is technology, it can't infect us. But then again, we have seen stuff like the Mutalist Ospreys, so definitely it can do something. And that leads us to the present day, where we are now, basically. We have a system that is fractured, one warring faction that wanted to take control, the Corpus who just want to make money off of everything, and chaos, while the Tenno try to maintain balance in a world that's falling apart. So, what is the Warframes? It is a body of metal, but who's somehow capable of bleeding, and every frame is unique with its own abilities, its own attitude, its own personality. Like, for instance, we have Ember here, who is a badass bitch with a mohawk that lights the world on fire and has a very come-at-me attitude. We have Valkyr, who wants to punch everything. We have Trinity, who's regal and very pretty. We have Saren, who is dangerously lovely. We have Excalibur, the Honorable One. We have Rhino the Mountain. Every one of them is unique, everyone is different. But the question is, there's some redundancy going on here, because if you look at the Orokin, like, why would they, like, they of course did all their, like, fancy stuff, pretty things, making everything golden and that sort of thing. But if all they were trying to do was make a bunch of mercenaries for a couple of kids to control, to fight their enemies, why would they have cared about making these creations, all of them unique, all of them different? Why would they have cared about gender? Why would they have cared about personality? Attitude, all that kind of stuff. Why would that be a thing? It doesn't really make sense, does it? And at the same time, as Orders told us earlier, we have a connection between the infestation and the what is it called? The Warframes. Now, if we remember back once again to Hayden Tenno, notice the name Tenno. Hayden Tenno was infected with the Technocyte virus, actually by a different person, someone known as Nemesis, which, if you look at Nyx in the game, she has a skin which is the Nyx Nemesis skin. And that's actually a reference to that, because Nemesis was a infested girl called Nadia Sudak, who basically had grown an entire power armor, who was sent to infest Hayden, or rather commanded to infest Hayden. And did so, and that gave Hayden this strange ability, his arm becoming a robot arm, the ability to summon a glaive at will from his hand. Later we also see him in a suit very much like that of Excalibur. And if you again look at skins, you can actually find the Excalibur proto skin, which is exactly this, a reference to Dark Sector and the original quote-unquote Excalibur. So here I postulate a little bit of a theory. And that is that these Warframes made by the Orokin was actually created from people using this Technocyte virus. They basically used this relic from the Old War, or not the Old War, the, what is it called, the Great Plague. Old War's a different thing. To create these machines out of people. That would explain everything in regards to why they are different, why they have personality, because they are made from something that has both personality and attitude. Why before? One second. I'm not sure what you're asking though. So, yeah. My theory is that basically the Orokin utilized the Technocyte virus, or what it had become, to create the Warframes. And basically, The technocide virus is what has become
Council is
the
nearby. If you trigger
infestation.
The alarms now, enemy will start destroying data.
in a later stage. Whether or not that then like escaped. And that's what I also meant by an Orokin weapon that backfired. Now, it wouldn't make sense that our operator would know this. But it could very much be that this Orokin weapon that backfired has something to do with the Warframes as well.
Alarms. Destruction is imminent.
Oh, someone spooked the guards. Uh-oh.
You got it. The data is still intact.
So it could be understood one of two ways, basically. Either we have the what is it called? Either we have the infestation that has been like released upon the system, maybe in a frail attempt to fight back against the sentients, and then it's gotten out of control because it couldn't really be controlled.
Nobody knows.
Or it could also be understood as being the Tenno created from the infestation of the technocide virus, but backfiring because we killed our masters. And now this leads us on to the talk of Umbra. I don't know what you're asking. That leads us on to Umbra and the Stalker. Because if we look at, for instance, Excalibur Umbra, why is he so special? Or for that matter, why is the Stalker so special? Like, what is it that makes them different from others? Because Umbra is a Warframe, and the Stalker, it's very clear that he's also a Warframe. However, both of them are different, and they seem to have something in common. And this leads me to what is actually coming in the future, which is what we already know to be called the Sacrifice. We know this name, we know it's the next chapter of the story to come, we know it will be what basically will introduce Umbra. But what is it? And what is it we'll be sacrificing? Now, this is my theory. That Umbra, being a Warframe, but being different somehow, and the way that he is different is essentially that
we have everything we came for. Get to extraction.
He is a Warframe that doesn't have a Tenno. Stop teleporting me around. Jeez. No alarm for you. So basically, my theory is that he is a Warframe without a Tenno. A Warframe that has free will. Which would make perfect sense if my theory is correct, that the Warframes are basically made out of people. Oh, music. Because even if the Orokin made it out of people, like, why would personality and stuff be kept? If they're just going to be a puppet, why would it just be a reflection of the operator? Well, it hints at there being more to a Warframe than meets the eye, in that if we look at Umbra and we take into consideration the theory that he is a Warframe that doesn't have a Tenno and does have free will, could Umbra then be the original Excalibur? Could he even be basically Hayden Tenno, further infected by the Technocide virus? That I don't know. I haven't played Dark Sector. I will play Dark Sector at some point, but I haven't played it myself yet. I want to. Or is it the first Excalibur? A prototype? But my theory is that because he has no Tenno, he has free will, and essentially in that we learn that
Tenno, you are here to infiltrate and retrieve highly sensitive.
Let's take the Stalker. What I think is also different about the Stalker is that, like Umbra, the Stalker is a Warframe,
Still in the clear. No protection from enemy
but with free will. But rather than Excalibur or Umbra, who has no operator, we have the Stalker, who is very, very different and has a bit of a grief with the Tenno.
The enemy would rather destroy the than let it get into our hands.
And my theory there is that basically the Stalker is a Warframe who essentially killed his own Tenno, thus reclaiming his freedom of will. But if you think about it, if you go about murdering someone who is in connection with your own mind, then that's probably gonna feel very much like you're killing yourself.
Your need console. Trigger the alarms now.
And that's
they will
gonna
start
drive
destroying
anyone
data.
insane. And that's basically what I believe. My theory of what happened to the Stalker is that he was a Warframe who realized his independence, or like his potential to be independent, and broke himself free by killing his Tenno, in the process also driving himself insane, but regaining his freedom. And whether that is why he hunts us now, maybe he slays the bodies so that the minds can be brought out, to kill the mind to free the body. A circular argument. You could say, well, you're killing the body that could have free will. It could also just be he wants revenge on every Tenno for what they did to him.
A clean extraction with no alarms.
And that then brings us to the revelation that we, the Tenno, who essentially rose up and cast down the slavers, the Orokin, to free ourselves from their rules and no longer have to be their puppet and kill in their name. Without our knowledge, because of transference, the very thing that we killed them for is something we are guilty of ourselves. We're essentially slavers ourselves. We didn't know. But is that really an excuse? Like, it doesn't hold up in a court of law, but Mr. Judge, sir, I didn't know it was illegal to run the red light. So obviously I should go free.
Trigger the alarms now. The enemy will start
And that makes me basically believe that in order for us to get Umbra, like the the sacrifice that we are going to have to make is essentially we must realize that we are doing evil at the moment, and in order to get Umbra, we will have to do away with this bond that we have with the Warframes. And I'm not saying like completely get rid of the Warframes, because that would be silly. It would have to be an upgrade still, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense in a gaming perspective. But essentially we have to get rid of or weaken our connection to the Warframes. So maybe in the future, for instance, we could see a situation where we have our Warframes suddenly having more free will. How that will manifest is a good question, though. It could be a symbiotic bond where we help each other. Like, basically we decide to work together and cooperate. It could also be we simply lose some control now and then. That could be fun. But I doubt it. And then there is the possibility, like when we discovered our operator, one of the things we ended up with was an operator that talks constantly. And it could very well be that we're basically going to end up with our Warframes starting to talk to us as well. Oh, that's pointy. That's bloody far away. Normally I wait for them, but I don't want to risk the alarm going off again. So that's essentially my theory why things are going the way they are. Like what will happen in the future, based on all the stuff that we've seen in the past. So, that's essentially it. That actually went faster than I thought it would. So, that's the story of both Dark Sector, not like the deep story of Dark Sector, that will be for an actual stream, but the parts of Dark Sector relevant to Warframe, leading up to Warframe itself, and then progressing on to present day and future. Also, yeah, Lucy says, don't forget Nidus, he is like an infected frame. Like, he is basically infestation in a frame. So, that's basically the big talk. So now that we have done that, how about we actually go in and bring Moo and Lucy in so we can talk together. Let me just grab this real quick and grab this and do that and Moo. That's a good point. I should take a drink.
I'm still in Cetus.
You're in Cetus?
Yep.
Do you keep being brought back there?
Yep. So each time we do a mission, I go into the mission and then I go back to Cetus.
Oh yeah, just one moment, Moo, if you could, well, Moo or Lucy, don't accept it quite yet. I just want to show a couple of things before we go into the mission.
Okay.
Because if we go in here, is your connection crapping out? You see here, this is the Excalibur proto skin.
Error not a number.
Which is the skin that is based
Operator
on
enjoys
Hayden
criticism.
Tenor. You notice the very metallic right arm. And if we find the other, we have the Nyx Nemesis skin. Oh, Moo is disappearing. Based on Nemesis from Dark Sector. So, while we're waiting for Moo to get back, let's hop in here. Because I actually have a couple of other things. First... Oh, I have something in
New
my throat.
alert my navigation, Tenno.
Let's do it this way. Stalker. So if you go into the Stalker here, you can actually see here, I am your reckoning. There's a lot of story. Some have walked these desolate worlds where you slept, some like me. I remember what you did, I remember the day. The Tenno appeared at the terminus, gleaming and victorious, our cold and gold empress. Breathless bathed you in Saviour's silk. Then came the sound, across all our worlds, all at once the ceremonial Naga drums. A royal salute to the honored Tenno. 10 solemn beats to declare the suffering was over. I watched from a distance, with the rest of the low guardians. With each beat terror began to crush my throat. The Tenno were not stoic and silent. They were waiting. They were poised. I tried to call out, but only a strangled whisper escaped. When the 9th beat rang, a torrent of blood filled the stadium. Loosed by Tenno blades, the drums, the Empire, fell silent forever. Now I hunt, dividing your numbers, watching from that dark place, cataloguing your sins. I am the ghost of retribution. You may forget, but you are not innocent. So that's a Stalker. And then we also have these, because I actually went in and got a couple of things. We have the Cetus fragments, the Agara fragments, and finally the Ghoul fragments.
I'm invisible.
Invisible. Let's bring Moo back.
Yep.
And of course they bring some lore into the game like the others do, but these here actually talks about the story of what is it called, of Korra. These here talk about the Gara, strangely enough, the Gara fragments.
Yep, still network issues.
Are you having problems in the game? I see you in the game. No, there you go. And finally, the Cetus ones, they tell the story of the Ostrans. Is Moo here?
I'm here.
Good, good.
But looking in again.
While we're waiting for Moo to log in, let's hear the story of Gara. If I can find it.
In the dying days of the Orichin, with forums and promenades still blood wet from Tenno betrayal, a colossal sentient descended upon ancient Ur, falling from distant stars to deliver upon Orichin a terrible and final ruin. Tower upon tower fell to its weapons, but one withstood, the Tower of the Unum. The Tenno scattered, but one remained, Gara. She and the Unum, inseparable. The Unum, lodestone of our people, and subject of 100...
I was still running Rosalind so often because you still need that one mod.
And massive, sent from some dark fold of distant space. A warped thing wounded by daylight. By night, it was a terror, felling tower after tower, citadel after citadel. But by day, it hid, blinded and pained. It was during the day that Gara roamed, yearning to strike it from creation while it cowered, weakened and blind, to safeguard her beloved Unum. But never could Gara find it.
Yes, that's still what I'm mainly leveling on Rosalind, is so that if that happens to drop.
By night, the sentient was abroad, its titanic mass casting a terrible shadow across the land, the mass of it railing against the walls of the tower, yet kept at bay by the exertion of the Unum's colossal will and the sacrifice of her faithful. But such exertions could not be maintained forever. Gara yearned to strike out, to lash and tear at the monstrosity that threatened her love, but the Unum forbade it. At night, the sentient was at the height of its power, and Gara's light would make her the most tempting of targets to a creature of such profound darkness. Gara's death would be certain. No, a different strategy was required. The sentient prowled and pressed and failed, never risking too much, for the sentient could not reproduce. What it lost forever. It had killed many cities before, felled many towers, but this little one prevailed. Why, it pondered in many voices, was that? The Unum knew she could not defend forever, nor could her faithful throw their bodies against the sentient in perpetuity. So she gave her followers some of her blood, her refined temple kuva, and they in turn gave it to the animals of the land, and the animals became an extension of her.
I think I may drop out. I must have catched something, I don't know. I've been not feeling very well the whole evening.
Sentient chose to hide itself.
Oh yeah, that sounds like you might have caught something. So what we learn here is essentially that kuva is blood. So that's disgusting. I'm very glad I didn't drink that buggery. Just saying. There's apparently something going on in the Warframe community, like whenever a streamer tries to do the war within, everybody's sitting there, chug, 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 chug. No thanks.
The sentient sensed this subterfuge, and capturing one of the Unum's animals, opened it up for examination. And what little of the Unum that was present...
So yeah, I guess I'll drop out for the evening.
Like the dark
Okay.
from which it had fallen.
Okay.
The sentient, you see,
Then you
could not
enjoyed
kill
the rest
prey,
of your evening?
But in the temple kuva,
Yep.
it tasted healing.
I think I will hit the pillow soon.
Future.
So
If you're not
More
feeling
each and every
the best,
last
then
Unum
that's
animal,
probably a good
but
idea.
It was not enough. The sentient turned its
Yeah,
order
sorry
to
that I have to leave so early.
with
No,
new
it's fine.
understanding.
Thank you for
It's
joining.
okay.
It would not destroy the tower. It would be
Okay,
the tower.
then have fun, you
It
two.
would kill the
Yeah,
Unum,
thank you
take
for
her
joining, and
place,
you enjoy the rest
and
of your
one
evening,
with that
however
healing
long it might
palace
be.
give birth to a race
Yeah,
itself.
and you two have fun, and
Unum knew
looking
their
forward to the
sentient
next
The sentient
run,
knew
you
the
two.
tower was the future
I don't know
of
when the next
Bye.
Warframe
The
one will be,
sentient
but
threw itself
bye-bye.
at the tower, no longer
Bye-bye.
cautious, taking great losses and knowing the prize was worthy of it. Should it succeed, all losses would be replaced 1,000-fold. This is when, across the plains, the great pylons ignited for the first time. Sheets of energy sprung up between them, powered by the will of the Unum at their epicenter, trapping the monstrosity within. Loyal Gara, unwilling to heed inaction any longer, broke from the side of the Unum and flew out at night, her eyes on the sentient mind. The sentient, torn between its most coveted prize and the mortal threat, broke from the tower and turned back on itself
Almost
to
done with them.
defend itself from noble Gara.
Okay.
But Gara's eyes were not for the sentient, but for the glittering man-sized device resting just beyond the gates. It had not been there before, but it was there now. It swatted Gara from the sky, drew it to herself, meaning to end her life there and then. The battle was terrible. Gara sustained injuries she would not survive. But in her final moments, brave Gara seized upon the device her beloved Unum had crafted, seized it to her breast, and allowed the sentient to draw her in one final time. Toward its body, toward its core, toward the seat of its intelligence. From within, the sentient unfurled myriad feelers, probes, tendrils, viciously toothed and made for killing. They swept toward Gara violently, and the glass warrior made no defense. Her defense was her final attack. The device detonated, and the Unum cried out as night lit as day. The battle, the terror, was ended. The tower wall shook. The sentient's body shuddered, racked by a cacophonous energy. Forests fell as piece after piece, giant body after giant body, crashed to the plains and marshes and flatlands. Animals fled in spreading waves from pounding sky-high walls of dust, angered and whipped to fury by the death of a god. The last of Gara's energy arced from body to body, machine to machine, piece to piece, a horizon-wide applause of light, beautiful and terrible. And then, silence. All was still. The Unum's adherents wandered through the haze, calling for one another, lost in a miasma. Husbands seizing onto wives, children onto parents. It was over. Gara was never seen again. The sentients then became as they are now.
Where's Mooxie going?
Senseless, wandering, yearning for a unity they sense more than remember. And the Unum? The Unum survived, alone, for centuries. Until today, when you stand here, reading this. This is Onko, Sita's archivist, with my translation of the Gara legend.
So, that fragment tells essentially about... what is it called? The story of Gara, who was the hero of the Austrian people, and the one who fought against the Eidolon. Oh, I guess it wasn't called the Eidolon at that point, it was a sentient creature, which came for the Tower of the Unum in order to basically reclaim a way to regenerate itself. Okay, not sure what's happening there. Well, I'm going to run it once in the meantime. So essentially, the sentient came, saw an opportunity in the tower to gain the way of reproduction that it couldn't as a sentient have. And thereby, basically, just like Nata or the Lotus,
Your mission is to break
gain the
down
ability to
the
basically
steel
breed,
and
which
intelligence
they
flash
couldn't.
The Bringers have no honor.
That's actually another thing, like
Keep
you
going.
have,
Nobody knows you're here.
what is it called? You have Nata, or the Lotus, like in the apostasy quest, what is it called? Apostasy Prelude, I think it was called. You saw Ballas show up and tell the Lotus that she was Margulis, but we had seen in a previous I want to say episode, but it's not really an episode. We had seen in a previous quest, the Chains of Harrow, where Palladino of the Red Veil told the Lotus that you are not her, you are not Margulis. Now, we know from Cephalon Ordis that the Orokin have the ability to basically alter minds. So now that Ballas shows up and tells the Lotus that you are Margulis, is that then true? Is he full of crap? Or what is it that is going on? Well, see, the thing is, it's very possible. Ballas loved Margulis, that is very clear. If you see the prime trailer of Saren, it's practically a love letter from Ballas to Margulis. So it's very clear that he cares for her, and having thought that he would just execute her, I almost think that it is more likely that what he truly did was he essentially robbed her of her memories so that he could hide her. Basically, kind of like when you have those like people who get in trouble for various reasons. You have people who witness for the police, and because of that they basically have to be given a new life because they're now in danger of being killed by, for instance, the Mafia. Similarly here, I think what might have happened is basically that Ballas gave her a new life the ultimate way, not just you actually do know it and you're just pretending to be someone else, but essentially having what is it called? Giving her new life and a new identity as the Lotus without actually knowing. Somehow, however, she is connected to the sentient as well, because we have the whole Natar thing where we find out that she is related to Hunhao and that whole deal. But what's that about? We see Hunhao as a burned corpse version of the Lotus.
The console is nearby.
Like, it looked like Lotus, but basically burnt to a crisp. And of course that is something, but it tells us that Hunhao also has a physical shape. And we know that the sentient drones, well, they're drones, so they must be controlled somewhere because they are sentient. So what is all that about? Well, it is very possible that that Natar is connected to the helmet, and that somehow allows Natar and Lotus to Natar and Margulis to become the Lotus.
Excellent work.
Perhaps a little bit of a stretch.
No alarms.
So essentially what I'm trying to say is that I do believe it is very possible that Ballas, instead of killing Margulis, sentenced her and then basically took her away to give her a new life so that he could protect her, so he wouldn't have to kill her without her actually knowing, because the best way to be safe is to not know. But how exactly that ties in with the Natar thing is another matter entirely. Because Hunhao, for instance, he wouldn't have an interest in preserving Natar's, what is it called? Or Natar or the Lotus's personality. It could be possible that these sentients, they have operators along with them. And Hunhao is such an operator. So that part I'm not really sure of. But I do believe that it's very possible that the Lotus could in fact be Margulis. Whether or not I'm right there is a good question, but we're making theories of the future, so don't always know what the answer will be. It seems like Mo is having a bit of connectivity problems. Shortly after I went into the mission, she also popped out of the voice chat here, so... I'd hope to get both of them.
For the Tenno.
Alright, a few more runs and we'll be there. We'll see, Lucy theorizes that Nidus could be the prototype. I don't think so. I do not think so. He's a different strain, that's for sure. And he's somehow connected to the it is possible that he is, because
Your mission is to bring
I do believe in the
any intelligence files you find.
what is it called? The parent sequence quest, the Glass Gambit, that's the one. That they refer to the blueprint of Nidus as an old war relic. And it's very possible that basically he was the original Warframe before the virus was perfected. I somehow don't think so, because he seems more connected to the modern strain of the infestation than the old. But you can never truly know. Ruff.
You're nearing the console. Trigger the alarms now, and they will start destroying the data.
Oops, stuck. Now, one thing here, this there actually at least used to be a bug. I don't know if they fixed it, because I don't feel the same now. But there used to be a bug where if you brought a saw into this mission and you did this spiral, your saw would really degrade in speed once you had gotten past that water bit in this vault. It is only the water bit in this vault. But it feels like they might have fixed it. I'm not sure though. They hadn't noted in my bug report that it was fixed last time I looked, but it could be. But just a little thing in case anyone does try to go here to level. The reason why I level here is because, as Lucy mentioned, is that there's a mod called Condition Overload, and it's really one of those essential mods that everybody needs. Basically, if you have a status weapon, you need this mod. Because what it does is, for every status effect currently in effect on the target that you hit, the damage will be improved by 60%. Is there a move? Move. So, if you have a status weapon that applies a lot of status, in this case, for instance, we would apply impact, slash, and a third. So that would be 3 times status. That is already a decent amount. Of course, it would be better if we had all IPS for that sake, but it will still be good, because that would be an extra status weapon. Oh, there's a move. I hear a move. And
yeah, you too.
Yeah, you're a little robot-y though.
Oh?
Oh?
Yes. It's expected to be robotic.
What's going on?
I hope this... Well, my internet broke completely.
That's not good.
I'm talking to you over my phone right now, but the connection home is really bad, so that's why I'm robotic. And of course I can't get back into the game. It's up, but that's complete. My router can't connect to my provider.
So the provider having problems?
Not sure what's up. I don't know. You know why.
I hope that it'll fix itself soon.
Go into the internet to look. Well, my
excellent work. A clean extraction with no alarms.
I mean, even if it is the provider having trouble, then there's not really much you can do about it. Who's sending me a message here? I should check that. Oh. It should be said though that, like, one of the reasons also why I like leveling melee weapons here is that you have basically that spy bolt there where you get 4 sneak kills. I don't know how I managed to get a sneak kill on him, but yeah, you have 4 bolts where you get sneak kills, or 4 sneak kills where 3 of them is in a row, so you get bonus affinity for those. Plus you get another sneak kill in another vault, sometimes 2. So already there, that's a good amount of affinity that you get from it. I think there was one that ran off. Stop that. And of course, every time you bap someone in stealth, they get a bonus. I'd hoped I could get to him before he would get alerted. No. Because if you get in quickly and get the stealth kill before they get alerted, you will still get the modifier for it. So, just a little bit of extra experience. Yeah, because you get so many stealth kills with your melee weapon, you have the opportunity to rank it up very quickly. Now I could go in with something like Ibarra to go in invisible and just stealth bap a bunch of people. But I wanted to play Ember, so I'm not. That would of course be the quickest way. And that works quite well if you want to level a melee weapon during stealth. But if you just want to level weapons in general, there's a lot of people who go to places like Hydron. The reasons why I don't do that right now is because I want to take advantage of getting the affinity all on the weapon here. I do believe you still get more affinity for it, like only having one weapon with you. But oh yeah, that is not a big bar. But yeah, basically if you go into what is it called? Like if you level here in Uranus, the reason why I level here is mainly, that's one of the reasons why I also don't level in Hydron. You can get Neo and Axie relics there, so that's very good. But what I want from this place is not the relics, that's just a nice bonus. I want the experience, and then I want the chance to get Condition Overload, because I still need the bloody Condition Overload mods, and it drops from the Drakkar Butchers that you find on Uranus only. I do believe they also appear on one node on Earth. I don't know if you have to unlock Uranus before you get that tile set there, but it's a thing. So that's an option, but yeah.
I need you to get inside enemy data vaults and retrieve crucial intelligence data.
Let's see. With a little bit of luck, we can do it this round. No alarm for you. It would also be easier if I upgraded the weapon along the way, but I kind of don't want to install weapons every 2 seconds. At least not until we've got it gilded.
Be on the lookout for increased.
Right now it is underperforming, but that's completely expected because it has lower stats than it would even have to begin with. So it's not really the purpose of it right now. Well, before you alert anyone, I'll take you out.
What did you see? My screen went dark. You're nearing the console. Trigger the alarms now. They'll start destroying the data. Keep moving. The scanners have detected you.
here we just wait until she goes up and turns around. There we go. And then it fits perfectly with us running out. Bap. Sometimes this one will notice you, but it's rare. And if they don't, grab this.
Excellent work.
And then we
A
go
clean
out.
extraction with no alarms.
And we get another kill here. I really hope that we will be able to come back, but we'll see how it goes. 300 bonus on a bombard. Not bad. I see you running for that alarm. Move! Move. Is the internet any better? Or still the same? That's good. You definitely sound better now.
Let's see how stable it is.
Also, if Papa kills an enemy while you're taking down another enemy in stealth, you won't lose your stealth modifier.
No.
What do you say?
Nice.
Is Moo munching?
Moo is munching moose.
Gummy moose? Is it the Milky Moose one?
Yep.
Nice.
I know, so.
The target console is nearby. If you trigger the alarms now,
If we ever do
will
meet
start
up,
destroying data.
I'd like to try them. I'm usually not one that really eats a lot of gummies. I should, but I don't.
Well, they are not really.
I know they're not like gummies. They're like not foam, but you know what I mean.
There are yogurt stuff.
Yeah.
Thingies with gum. There is gum on them.
I know
But,
some others that are
yogurt
kind of like them, but I know from experience it's just because they kind of are of the same type, they don't necessarily taste the same, and some of those that taste absolutely awful.
Is everything in order? Is that the bun?
I will attempt to bypass this one. That was actually a topic on something I watched earlier, was that like people get tired of orders because he says the same all the time, and it's a little sad because then you end up hating orders because he repeats himself. And I said, I don't care. I will love orders no matter how many times he makes a crack about Grenade intelligence. I will laugh at his jokes. I love orders.
Your Warframe suits you.
Ha. Ha.
Or the always famous background radiation is a riot.
Cosmic background radiation is a riot. That was a butcher, by the way. Is Moo in game again?
Yep.
Oh, you bastard.
You're on the sensors now. You've been detected.
That was running around me.
I will
Back
invite
at
you once
50.
I'm out of the mission. I will invite you once I'm out of the mission.
Yep. Okay, Papa got two squishies, now Papa runs off. Enough squishies, not bad. That is good.
The important things. Ooh, okay.
I mean, if you ever meet up, I probably bring, if I remember, a couple stuff, because we have... I mean, you probably also have Milka there.
We have milk and chocolate, but I'm pretty sure we have.
Yeah,
I haven't had it like since I was a papa though. And I know I'm still a papa, but
I mean,
still.
Milka chocolate is... Papa jumped out of bed to curl next to bed.
Get Papa.
I'm detecting a large
I'm sure Papa just got warm.
It's the Grenier.
Likely. For everyone who listens, who wants to know, I brought Papa 2 beds. So she can sleep where she wants to. And I also put one of those in my cockpit, so because Papa is often in the cockpit. But instead of sleeping in bed, she usually sleeps half a meter next to it. Which makes me a little bit annoyed, but not angry, because I can't be angry at Papa. Papa is too cute to be angry at. I mean, Milka isn't that easy to bring, honestly, because I mean you have it at quite some area, and it's mostly the chocolate, good chocolate, every good chocolate, but yeah, but we also have many things with causal. And we also have a chocolate that's called Bambina.
Bambina?
I think that's the name.
I think it means girl, if I remember correctly. It's gonna be annoying. I'm missing like 2/3 of a level.
Nope, it's Bambina.
Back, Papa. Good Papa.
It's a special kind of chocolate you can get here.
No, Papa, don't bite.
Oh, it's from the city.
Sometimes Papa gets excited.
Yep, very excited. That chocolate is caramel and roasted hazelnuts with the chocolate coating at the bar. And you break it off. It's not like
Hello, Lucy.
other chocolates where you have hey hon, where you have, you know, defined pieces. You just break anything up. They introduced new flavors, like they have now strawberry too.
Mission alert available. Check navigation.
It's good. But I like the originals, and remind me to give you one of that too, because it's also one of those more specialized chocolates or sweets.
And what did you call it again?
Bambina.
Bambina. I will try to remember. Of course, we didn't quite make it.
I put a link into the chat.
World of Sweets, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I'll check it. Should I check it now?
Well, no. It's safer work, so yes.
Well, it's not gonna be brought up on stream anyway. It's just. Oh, nice. I have not figured out how to how to talk on Twitch on my phone. I haven't really tried either. But...
That's actually you can go onto the website simply.
I
often do that when you stream on your own. You know, when I have to visit bathroom.
But it's like you can only either watch video or the chat, right?
And you can either watch the video or you can see the chat.
From enemy sensors.
That's why I then don't talk to you. Oh, here's one of the occultists, and I saw the other one too.
Yeah, one of them might have seen me, but I don't think I triggered it. I left them so you could pick them up.
Got them both.
That's another reason why I like also training here, is that those guys, they show up really often. Practically every mission. And if you scan them, you get 60 something if they are alerted, and if you manage to get them unalerted, you get 202 Simaris standing. And that counts up over time, so instead of having to do Simaris missions, I just like slowly gain Simaris standing day to day. Of course, it's small amounts, so if you want to gather all your standing that way, oh, there is a shiny inside point A, so you should come and get that.
Data extracted. They won't even know
The door's open now. Mo taught me that that door was there, and then I proceeded to forget that it was there. I'm putting a waypoint down by A. Is Mo still here? Or did I lose Mo again? I think I lost Mo again. I just noticed that Mo's name is no longer here. No. Cheetah? Oh. Come on. It always takes so long to find this, like, what is it called? A stable point. Yeah, it's just one of those, like, I don't really watch streams from my phone, so usually, like, I don't install apps unless I really need them. So that's one of the reasons why I don't. Seems like the internet was not entirely fixed. Now it's popped out again.
We'll start destroying data.
What happens? Don't alert all the others, please. And we are max rank, so we're actually ready to guild. Now the guilding process requires 5,000 Austrian standing and 2 Cedar Wisps, so just keep that in mind. Oh, there's a move. Move?
No.
Are you back in the game, or what happened?
Internet broke again.
A clean extraction.
Yeah, I figured when you popped out all of a sudden.
And honestly, let's try the finishing this mission, and then I stop because it's.
Well, I mean,
not going to get better.
we can stop after this mission.
Yeah.
Like I'm done leveling the saw now, so the only thing I have left to do is really gild it.
I mean, you can, of course, continue.
It's up to you. Like, the only thing that I want to do for the remainder of the stream is really to do the fragments, and then could essentially call it off. Like, what I wanted to do was I wanted to level the saw, potentially show off the saw afterwards, and then show the fragments, and then potentially call it off. So it could be a good point to call it off. No alarm for you. There's some more. I don't know how much experience you're getting out of it, though. I didn't want to sit around for the stream.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, let's see.
Nearing the console. Trigger the alarms now, and they will start destroying the data.
Okay, I don't get anything. Okay, I got 37 credits. I probably will only get for the last one now.
Oh well. Better than nothing.
Better than nothing. Yep.
What I do here is I go inside, like I wait in the doorway because there might be a sensor right inside which will just sway towards the door and see you. Then once I'm sure it is there or not there, I go out. Wait a moment before I jump up. Someone alerted the guy.
Excellent work. A clean extraction.
Maybe that was my shooting.
Yeah, that would do it.
Get to extraction.
I still got 3,000.
Well, he didn't trigger the alarm, so we didn't lose any experience by it. But still, no shooting in the vault.
Well, I was outside the vault, but
no,
they probably...
you were in the vault. The vault was open. Like, the moment that the door is open, basically the people will be alerted if there's any sound.
Oh, not I can switch place with balls.
Hey, I think you can switch teleport with
that moment of silence.
Silly. Oh, there's a mod. Retribution, you should get that. More? God damn it. Okay, this time we're waiting.
Alarms successfully hacked. Location is returning to normal security levels.
Let me check something real quick. It really doesn't like Mo today. Let's see. 15% chance to deal electricity damage when struck by melee enemies. Let's move out of the voice chat. I don't know about replaying the Chains of Harrow. I'm not a big fan of the Chains of Harrow. I basically only played it because I had Moo there to hold my paw. I'm not very good with scary things. I might do it at some point. I actually thought about possibly doing it for Halloween. But I don't know.
No!
Moo!
Yeah, not going back into the game.
Oh, you should. There's a mod for you. You might have it already, but...
What mod is it?
Retribution?
I don't know. You know if I have it or not.
I mean, it's not the best mod. What it does is it gives 15% chance, so basically 60% chance to deal 80 electricity damage when you're struck by melee attacks.
It's not bad.
No. But is it something that you want to log in to get?
I mean, I'm already logging in, so... Network not responding.
Network, get your foul words together. Lucy thinks we should replay the Chains of Harrow. Did I lose Moo again? I think we lost Moo again. Well, if anything I have it, so I can always trace Moo's a copy, so since we lost Moo again, let's head out of the mission. So we don't have to wait so long for it. Alright, time to actually gild the thing. So we need to return to Cetus. And see, this was one of the things we learned, that the blood of the temple is, the blood of the temple tower is basically Kuva. And we know that Papas has a tendency to lick things that they shouldn't. So when there's blood lying around here, it's probably not a good idea to bring Papa here. I don't want Papa drinking Kuva, or licking Kuva, or anything with Kuva. I mean, it might make Papa immortal, but you...
Money in your sock pedlik is for bail. Swazdola, what do you need?
So, other services. Guild Soul. 5,000 standing, 2 Cetus Wisps. And it'll be this one. He will ask you to forma it. You can change the polarity if you want. We don't want to do that because we're actually quite happy with it. And then you can also add a different polarity if you want. You can add any you want. I usually add a V polarity, or as I like to call them, the R polarity, because it looks like more like a lower capital R than a V to me. But commonly spoken V polarity, because that fits things like pressure point that you always need, many of the expensive mods that you always need, that sort of thing. So having that is really a good place to start. So let's apply that. Then we'll be asked for a name. Now here, can use lowercase letters. I like to use capital letters because otherwise it's going to bother me up in the overlay. Let me just double check my naming. We'll call it Bapper. It doesn't exactly fit my usual names, but it will be called that because I like it.
A name to strike fear into the hearts of the wicked.
And now we have Bapper. Now we're wielding. No, we're not quite wielding it. Let's see. There we go. Now we're wearing it. That is default colors, of course, but it's there. But if we look up here, everything else has capital letters, so it would really bother me if that was lowercase. Amber appears with lowercase letters, but if you look inside of a level when you're running with someone else, if you look at the name over people's heads, that has capital and lower case letters. So I want the same for Amber, otherwise that would look weird. So that's why Amber do not have capitals. So just keep that in mind. Alright, let's leave Cetus again. We're done with what we need to do there.
No!
No! Welcome back.
Thanks, son.
I decided to finish the mission rather than wait further.
Yeah, it's just...
And I think it's probably also a good time to leave the mission off. Or leave the stream off, but I want to do the last fragments before leaving.
When I'm gone again, I just, you know,
Please return covered in blood.
I won't return into a voice chat because it just gets annoying.
But yeah, now we are essentially ready to level
And
Bapper
you
up
sound-
properly. Oh, I think Moose going again. That's really annoying. We're going to apply a potato to Bapper. We're going to apply reach to Bapper. Basically, the build that I want for this is I want to have pressure point, primed fury, primed pressure point, primed fury, primed reach. Use the regular ones if you don't have them. You can also use Berserker. It has 14% critical chance, so it can go with Berserker. I don't really like Berserker for something that little. I like to be up around 18-20. But it can still work. I just like it this way. Then we would like to use Drifting Contact, because Drifting Contact is always good. It gives 40% extra status chance. 10 combo duration, which is always great if you want to go into anything longer. This spot here will be for condition overload, which I don't have at the moment. These two here will be reserved for the 60% status, 60% elemental mods. So if we do status, so that would probably be Virulent Scourge. And I'd probably also do, what is it called, the electric one, which I don't have yet. So I'll probably do, what is it called, viral until then. But I think it would be more beneficial to do corrosive because we don't have a reliable slash proc to really work together with the viral. So I think it would be better to basically stun lock, strip armor, and get the occasional what is it called, slash proc in to get extra. And the last slot here is actually reserved for a Riven. I could put something like improvement of impact or improvement of slash into it, but it would skew the percentage further away from the more even distribution. So I don't want to do that. So this was actually intended for a ribbon slot, and as you see here, I do have a ribbon. This will be gifted to Moo. Don't pay attention to the stats. They're ours. It hasn't been re-rolled, but essentially that would go there. And the reason for that is what I want this spot to be is potentially more base damage, not specific damage. I want it to be speed, I want it to be reach, that sort of thing. Status chance would be amazing. Status duration could potentially be good, because that would increase the likelihood that we have all our statuses going. But not really the most important. As for what we could take hits to, we could take hits to critical chance. I'd rather take hits to critical multiplier, but not so that it goes below 1. That's the important thing, because if it goes below 1, when we crit we would do less damage than normal, which would be us, so we don't want that. And most ideally, the negative potential curse we could get could be minus puncture damage. That would be great, because we don't have puncture damage. So if we could get that, that would be brilliant, but for now we'll leave it off there. I won't bother leveling it up now, but before we call off the stream, let's go and have a look at the last couple of fragments, since it is a lore stream. So let's start with Cetus and end off with the ghouls. So all of these tales of the Ostran culture, while the fragment itself tells of the foundation of Cetus, or the legend of the foundation of Cetus. So let's listen to that.
In the age after the fall of the Orokin, the grand clade families of the Ostrons were cast wide across the solar system, roaming and homeless in their great floating markets. In this time, two young people were in love. The woman, Erfriha, and the man, Mirza. Erfriha was from the Yingbendun Yai clade, meaning great bond, a very old and wealthy compact of bonded families. Mirza, however, had no clade, his family having been shattered by the Grineer many years before. He was Cetus, meaning landless, cladeless, a body turned to dust, turned to motes, on a careless wind. Efria belonged to families within families. Mirza was alone. But to Efriha, Mirza was a poet who had eyes to see the beauty of things and ears to hear the softly whispered language of the universe. I know a place, he said, where I may be homeless no more. I have heard a voice, and it leads me there. Come with me. But Elfriha's father was a man made foolish by his wealth.
No.
And vociferously disapproved of their love. Mirza was cast adrift from the floating market that was home to his one true love. Erfriha and Mirza ran away together, as lovers do, and were never heard from again. Rent by grief, her family thought her dead. Her father passed away, clutching her cameo, at peace, thinking he would see her soon, in some moonlit afterlife. Decades later, ships entering ancient Earth's orbit were hailed from the planet's poisoned surface by an old woman's voice, gentle and knowing. Traders would call for her, greet her, offer the latest news on their families and lives, but never did they learn anything of this woman, save that she had a husband and they were, somehow, happy living on the toxic skin of that hostile world. The old woman would always ask those travelers of news of the Yingbin Dunyai clade. Yingbin Dunyai junkers came searching for a sign of their missing daughter. The frail voice of their long-lost child reached out to them, and there was much joy. "You will find us," her message said, "by the light of our love." Elfriha bade them make their home around a magnificent Orokin ruin, promising them that it would be a source of prosperity for generations to come. The Yingbin Dunyai arrived in their vast floating market. There, by a ragged coastline, winked a point of light. "Follow the brightness of the love between Mirza and I," said the message, "and be safe from all harm." The wrathful Grenier took umbrage at this, and sought to block their passage. But upon approaching that ancient Orokin tower, found their transmissions silenced, their engines turned cold, and their weapons reduced to lumps of dead iron. She was a being of the day, her husband a split of the night. Elfriha was a woman of the land, Mirza a man of the sea. Mirza understood the crushing weight of time in which air existed. In return, air gifted pieces of its ancient self to Mirza, old things shaped to near shapelessness by 1,000 years beneath the waves. Mirza was a man dedicated to finding the sacred in the forgotten, the neglected, and took wisdom from them. After many decades, Mirzar had a small collection of such gifts, such that they could be held in two cupped hands. But in them he understood the lifespan of a world, and so he had struck an accord with the creatures of the sea. For her part, in her times alone, Elfriha came to know the birds and animals of the plains, and likewise struck an accord with them. Even the tortured Eidolons, creatures of this world and the next, left them in peace, and made the lands around the tower safe for the Ostrons. At the center of this place was the tower, and within the tower was the Unum, the voice, the force that had called Mirza and Elfriha there so many years ago for this exact purpose. But the Unum is a being for another time and another story. The Ostrons named their village Carifomil, family and prosperity. Elfriha was overjoyed to see her clade again, but Mirza would not enter Carifomil, for he had no family save Elfriha. Elfriha was drawn to her clade, and Mirza felt no resentment. She would one day return to them. Mirza had known it would be so. Mirza took the things the sea had gifted him over his long life and took to his boat and sailed out across his midnight ocean. He returned those gifts to the deep, and himself to them too. But this was no death into which Mirza stepped, for a world is made of cycles upon cycles. Mirza stepped into his midnight ocean, falling down into it. And the deeper he sank, the larger he became. This is how the oceans of came to be the home of the 1,000-year fish. Legendary, vast, reclusive, the rare sight of which changes men. One of the great ancient spirits of The spirits of the land felt Elfriha's sadness, mad with grief for the loss of their friend to the spirits of the sea. The accord broke down, the animals and eidolons returning once more to wildness. And so the people of the Clade, Yingbin Dunyai, rebuilt the great Oricon wall that had, in centuries gone by, ringed their gleaming tower, and never again ventured out at night. The villagers decided as one that their home would no longer be known as Carifamil, family and prosperity. From that day forward, it would be known as Cetus, landless, of no one clade, home to any who are blown as dust on the wind. Elfriha lived there the rest of her days, and for the remainder of her nights, she held vigil atop the walls of Cetus, looking to the sea, and, some say, occasionally catching sight of a great fish, like an island in a midnight ocean, looking back at her with love. It is said that Mirza continued to watch over the deep, as he had always done, and Elfriha the land. Often she would stand by her husband's sea, speaking in the language only those bound at the soul can know. When the day came and Elfriha passed from the world, her family buried her on the land. A great fish watched from the sea and kept vigil over her for 10 days and nights. When it sank beneath the waves, it was never seen again. Some say Mirza, the 1,000-year fish, waits to this day for their story to be retold, relived, that he and Elfriha, his great love, may one day be reunited again. This is Onko, Cetus archivist, with my translation of the tale of the wife of the earth and the husband of the sea.
So that's the story of Cetus and the people of the Austrans. Two young people, one of noble birth or caste, and one without family, who flee together because her father would not have their love, make a home on Earth, where their family, or her family, happen to find them again, hearing that they're always asking about them and putting two and two together. So they go there and build a settlement, but Mirza does not feel part of it, because he doesn't have a family other than Freya. So eventually one day he sails out into the ocean and throws his belongings and himself in. And according to legend, he transformed into the 1,000-year fish. But this, of course, made her sad. And that broke up the land. They changed the name of the settlement they have created from Carifamil family and prosperity to Cetus, landless. Erected the Orokin barriers. Hi there, Cosmic. And basically changed Cetus to a place open to all, regardless of family or caste or anything. So, yeah, that's the story. Well, the story of Gara, of course, tells the story of the glass warrior who protected the Tower of the Unum and fought the ancient sentient until one day giving her own life to take out the sentient and protect the Unum, the ultimate sacrifice. Now, the only one we have left is the ghouls. Now, the ghouls, of course, the fragments talk about the ghouls themselves, the various types, what it's all about. Lots of, essentially, zombies. But inside is another story, like in all the other fragments. And that talks about... Oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. I just hope that you're feeling better. But yeah, these fragments tell a story about something that is to come.
Every living thing longs to be whole. Every living thing yearns to defy death. If from death you returned, yet the part you loved best did not, what then?
Mystical.
My name is Sigor Savar, morphology specialist with Nef Anyo's Venusian terraforming expedition. I was tasked with decoding the Orokin gene record of what had once been a preserve, and reviving select specimens for study. This is an account of my encounter with lifeform VK7, a larger than average Kavat specimen possessed of atypical behavioral characteristics. Specimen VK7, unlike the others, did not come from a gene record. She was found, frozen, in a sealed closet close to the environmental control station. Her unassuming tomb for millennia. Here, then, was an intact example of Orokin-era fauna. I was Corpus, a scientist second and a businessman first. VK7, an Orokin strain Kavat of unusual size and patterning. Well, I could think of several members of the nobility who would pay a fortune for such a thing. Enough to buy a handsome slice of any planetoid of my choosing.
It's okay, Moo. It happens with the bad connections, and we can always play more tomorrow, so don't worry about that. At this point, I think it's time to call the stream off, so we're just going to finish the fragments, and then we're going to basically call it off, because the purpose of the stream is lore, and we're pretty much there with it, so I think it's a good time. So don't worry at all about it. Right here.
I had the corpse laid on a dissection rack, ready for a full surgical examination. Then, like any animal dreaming, the paw twitched. I glanced at the vital scanner, expecting to see some anomalous electrical reaction taking place, contracting ancient muscles, but no. What I saw there was a beating heart. I did not revive specimen VK7. Before my eyes, she willed herself back to life. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Some speak of feeling a connection to something greater than themselves. to which I laughed, as any right-thinking corpus would. Life is profit, profit is life. But in that moment, watching that animal claw her way out of death's dark pit, though I did not admit it to myself, something in me was forever changed.
Yeah, I understand that you're annoyed. I would be too.
I found her sharp gaze unsettling. The way she would watch my every move from her cage unnerved me. When a visitor came, I would watch VK7 studying their habits. In time, she came to anticipate regular arrivals, having memorized their schedules. On the morning of my 4th shift, I entered my laboratory to find her cage door open and VK7 gone. One consequence of breathing life back into a world is unintentionally resurrecting life forms and viruses one finds less desirable. The infestation is both of those things. Reports returned of some hive sites found destroyed, and then of a large beast found at others. An animal intelligent enough to learn and react to corpus behaviors and patterns. Some claimed it had learned to measure ammunition expenditure to better attack when a target was most vulnerable. Needless to say, almost none who attacked the beast survived. This had to be specimen VK7. I left to join with a flamer team already deployed to a nearby hive. Both team and hive were dead when I arrived, killed by tooth and claw. Fearing for my life, I made to leave, and was apprehended by the sight of a low figure blocking my egress. Specimen VK7. She prowled forward from the shadow of a shattered, snow-blown hive, her paw prints red with blood. I made to open a comm channel to request assistance. VK7 growled low, and I swear this to be true, slowly shook her head. I did not make that call. She patted closer, and I saw the wound on her side. She turned that side toward me, an act of trust, and a request for aid. I unpacked my field kit and carefully went to work. I did not report my experience with specimen VK7. I could not admit why then, but now I can tell you. I felt it would have violated a trust. There I was, a morphology specialist, sworn to the Corpus Empire, and yet, for reasons entirely illogical, I placed loyalty to a wild animal above my life oath, and every doctrine that values self-interest above charity. But keep that confidence I did. I think that is why VK7 brought me the hand.
The hand?
Somehow, she had managed to infiltrate the facility, bypass 2 different security gates, and had gained entry to my laboratory without raising an alarm or my awareness. She held in her jaws a severed hand. Blackened, fossilized, gently, she laid it before me and, with a meaningful glance, turned, pattered away into the shadows, and was gone. I analyzed the hand. What I learned that night, alone in my laboratory, would become an obsession to focus the remainder of my life. The hand was of Orokin construction, emphasis on that last word. Whoever the original possessor had been, they were born of no mother. In the past, I had been privileged to read some of Alad V's treatises on Warframes, and there could be no mistake. What I held was the hand of one of those very creatures, and one Aniocorp had no record of. Therefore, my first task was to extract a working blueprint, or as near as possible, from the sampled cellular makeup. One word recurred again and again. The word that had once been her name. Cora. Cora. I was convinced. Specimen VK7 wanted Cora resurrected. Why else bring the hand to me? Why trust me with this sole remaining piece of a lost Orokin warrior? The evidence of such rich, nuanced cognition on the part of an animal. That was the real treasure here. The value of which, I knew, would be lost on my superiors. VK7 would be hunted down and, at best, captured for testing. At worst, well... Therefore, I told them none of this. To no avail. Specimen VK7 was tracked to a box canyon 4.3 clicks south-southwest of the atmosphere processing station. The horror of the hives, as she had come to be known, had been deemed unworthy of study, and was to be destroyed in her lair. I positioned myself at the entrance to her cave home and waited. To doom myself in the name of some imagined ideal. My own voice screamed in my head. What are you doing? What are you doing? Once, not so long before, I was a man who would have sold this animal for profit. Now I stood in the freezing cold, surrendering all I had for... some would say nothing. I would say... something greater than myself. They came, picking their way through the snow, heads bowed, pushing against a numbing, slashing wind that froze skin and carried my voice to them. I begged them to stop, pleading VK7's case, with a bomb in my hand. It went about as well as you'd expect. They did not listen. Numsol is employed, traditionally, as an animal tranquilizer, but converts to an aerosol easily enough. The canister rolled from my fingers and erupted in a geyser of brown-green gas, thrown towards the hunters by that roaring wind, bathing them. I am a better scientist than saboteur. Their respirators dealt with the Numsol as handily as every other contaminant, and I was promptly arrested. But VK7 did escape. I achieved that much.
How so good?
The atmosphere processor wasn't made for imprisonment or interrogations, but the lack of facilities did not prevent them performing both. Bound and beaten in maintenance closet A5, I told them everything. It doomed me. Zil, the oxygen tech from Reclamation 3, had a previous career in psychological operations for some branch of the military. Therefore, he had been selected to administer to me, to interview me and, ultimately, to execute me. Barrel pressed to my forehead, Zil said he would prefer it if I did not look at him. Obliging as ever, I closed my eyes. There was a sharp crack, then nothing more. I opened my eyes. Zil lay dead at my feet, limp, throat clasped in VK7's jaws. I was corpus no longer. Remaining on Venus would be death for both of us. We had to escape. Together we made for an automated cargo relay. One that would ferry us anonymously to the hold of a Solaris rail tractor in geosynchronous orbit and away from Venus. How well she guided me, circumnavigating patrols and security cameras. But, inevitably, my former comrades calculated our likely destination and closed in, rapidly. Plasma blasts lanced the air from both sides of the hangar. I bundled myself into the nearest open conveyor, bound for orbit. A waste of time, I knew. We had reached our means of escape, but had no hope of achieving it. Troopers and mowers closed in a classic pincer movement. Sparks and near misses flashed hot against my face. In moments our conveyance would be destroyed, and us along with it. And my only thought was heartbreak, for how badly I had failed her. In that final moment, VK7 did something that will stay with me for the rest of my days. With one of her meaningful glances, the last we would ever share, she reared up and activated the conveyor. My pod's door slammed shut, and outside my viewport, she leapt toward the enemy. Before I could select the release and free myself, the mag rails activated, and I was hauled out of the complex, skyward, and into orbit. Saved, leaving her behind. That was, well, many years ago now. I have spent my life attempting to locate Cora's remains. Contacts inform me she was found, fused but intact, within the Oricon terraforming complex itself, and shipped off-world via a notorious Solaris rail agent, who subsequently vanished. I now believe, firmly, that her remains are to be found on the Eidolon Plains. I go there now, entrusting these encrypted logs to my old friend, Konzu, for safekeeping. There I shall put a lifetime of searching to rest. I have never doubted that VK7 survived Venus, and to this day I still believe that before I leave this life forever, I shall one day look up from my writings to find a familiar figure standing in my doorway, alongside her Kavat. I am Sigor Savar, a better man, as it turns out, than a scientist.
So that's the story of a corpus scientist who experiences something amazing that changes him, and suddenly he finds himself breaking with everything he's ever known, the pursuit of profit, in pursuit of selfless acts. Not exactly something you would expect from Corpus. Until he flees Venus with the help of Benari, as she comes to be known, VK7, and then sets off onto Earth to find Cora. Now, we already know that the Eidolon Plains will not be the place where we actually get Cora, as in the Cora that we can play at the moment. But it is very possible that the original Cora, which would be the Prime, is located on the plains. This of course is the fused Prime, the original, not the Prime replications that we can find later once the Prime is released. But Cora herself will be located in the what is it called? The Simaris. What is it called? The Sanctuary Onslaught mode that will be coming out. So we're expecting it on Tuesday. Hi, Papa. Okay, that was a strange bug. Let's pet you proper. There's some bugs with the petting going on when you have the what is it called, the vignette set up. But I think that's a good place to end it, back where we started, in the quarters. So, I hope that you enjoyed the stream. I hope that it was interesting and helpful. And, yeah, that you enjoyed my little look at what my theory is for the future. Whether or not that will fit, we'll have to wait and see, but I hope I am at least partially right. Oh, Papa's on the way in. Nighty night, Papa. Alright, so let's hop out of the game here so that we can actually get the stream ended. Put on a little bit of ending music. So I hope that you enjoyed the stream. I hope you found it interesting. I hope it wasn't too boring. I'm glad that it makes you want to play it. I really do like the story of Warframe. It's really nice. Like, there's some facets that you don't find in a lot of games, and I really appreciate that. And also, as I talked about today, some hidden revelations that I believe will happen that colors everything a little grey, and it's already been done before in the storyline, so it wouldn't surprise me, but we'll see. But yeah, if you do start up playing, and of course you play on PC because I'm playing on PC, if you ever need help or just want to play, you can always poke me. I'm always happy to help out. So for now though, let's call the stream off. It's actually later than I thought it would be. It's already past midnight, so it seems like a good time. So I'll say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed all the lore talk. I hope that you enjoyed the little bit of saw talk, and that it will help you out in building your own saws, give you some inspiration. For now though, I'm gonna get going and make myself ready to curl up. So, for now, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time. Have a lovely weekend and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye bye everyone. Good night.
you.